Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the Committee of the Whole meeting for Monday, November 17th, 2025. Clerk Taylor, will you please call the roll?
Irby?
Here.
Brennan?
Here.
Barimas? Here. Bellinger?
Here.
Shanko? Here. Hill?
Present.
Graham?
Here.
Jensen?
Here.
Toludo? Here. Baker?
Here.
Nudera?
Here.
Virgil?
Here.
Nardini?
Here.
Vestito?
Here.
14 present, 0 absent.
14 present, two absent,
0.
0 absent. That's less than 2. We have a quorum. Did anyone provide written comment this evening?
Not as of earlier, just...
And we can check for that. Meanwhile, did anyone sign in for
Nobody signed
public
in.
forum? And is there anyone in the audience that would like to make comment at public forum who has not had the opportunity to sign in but would like to speak? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to the business before the committee.
Someone did provide written comment that's posted.
It's posted. All right, very good. I will move on to review of the fiscal year 2026 budget, which is the sole topic we have for this evening.
Oh, no.
Oh.
Does anyone see it? I don't know if it was received in time, is what I'm hearing.
Okay, is it posted?
It's not, no.
All right. All right, let's move on to the budget. I'm going to make a few comments before we get into our work this evening. First, I want to thank all the aldermen who've worked very hard on an unusual budget year. Everyone's put in a lot of time, and I've spoken to a lot of people. I know the aldermen have spoken to each other as we try to sort through things. I just want to provide a little bit of an overview of where we've come from and where we're going. Our budget process starts with two things. One is our finance director projects our revenues from all sources. Our department heads put their heads together and make their requests on what they think the budget is going to be for the year, including increased expenses or any new initiatives that might be considered. And the city manager, the finance director, and others match up the revenues with the expenditures, and following the plan that we do that when we got together probably in 2021 and since, and they put together a budget proposal, which is what's in this document right here. Our budget ordinance is a plan. It's a working document for our fiscal year, which happens in our situation to be the calendar year. Property taxes, when we do them, have to be levied in advance of the year, but the budget is somewhat of a living document. It can be adjusted throughout the year. A line item can be increased or decreased or even eliminated. The 2025 budget is a little different than in past years. Our policy has been for a long time to maintain a fund balance of 25 to 33% of our total budget, due in part to significantly decrease expenses during the time of COVID and the receipt of federal funds during COVID. Our reserve was in excess of 33%. There was a conscious decision not to increase property taxes and instead spend down the excess. The reasoning being that we would not tax our residents when we had extra money in our bank account. And this is the year when we've crossed the line, and now we have spent down to the point where we have to watch our reserves and keep them in the 25 to 33% range that we have as a policy. Our proposed budget had $3 million in cuts through work of the council. We added another $600,000 in deferrals, some cuts, and we've looked at $1 million property tax increase. I'll remind you that there were health insurance costs that unexpectedly increased by $1 million, including $400,000 in premiums and $600,000 in a required replenishment of our pool. For those of you who are new around the council, which is probably most of the people except for Alderman Bram to this one, the last time we had a real levy increase was in 2010, with the asterisk that each year the Department of Revenue tells us how much we must put in for police and fire pensions, and we go a little bit beyond that to make sure that our pensions are well-funded. Everybody knows how much costs have increased over the past 15 years, and particularly since the pandemic, when we've seen increased construction costs and materials and labor costs. And yet at the same time, as a city, we've held the line on our budget. This proposal would result in a $56 increase on the average $500,000 house. We've always been budget conscious, budget hawks here in Elmhurst. I've been on the council since 2010. I'll remind you that we did a review in 2021 looking carefully at the budget. That was when I first came in, and we wanted to make sure that we were running a tight ship, and we have been. I look a little bit to other communities. Ours is one of the 3 lowest tax rates in DuPage County. Oak Brook doesn't have a property tax, so maybe one of the 2 lowest. The things that we're going through this year is not unique. Other municipalities, mayors with whom I talk, and I assume that other city managers with whom Mr. Grabowski talks, are seeing the same kinds of things. Our budget, as you will notice, we have significant costs in personnel. We have in benefits. We've had very significant increases not only in health insurance but at other lines of insurance as well. City manager distributed a November 6 Daily Herald article, and it looked like Wheaton was going through a mirror of what we're going through. A new police station they're looking for. It was built in the 1990s, and a new fire station to replace built in the 70s. Looking at a 3% property increase, or about $35 on a $500,000 home. This Sunday, the Tribune reported that Naperville is facing a $6.5 million deficit, and they're looking at a 6.8% increase over their 2025 budget, about $190 million, of which $174 million is for general fund expenditures. And I understand they are significantly larger than we are, but it's all proportional. Trib also reports that Elgin, which has not raised its levy in 10 years, is considering a $7.5 million levy increase with $4.2 million for its general operations. And so that for Elgin, they have a lower average house price of $250,000, but on a $500,000 house, it'd be $150 per resident. Kane County's reporting a looming budget shortfall in its general fund in recent years, which its board has been solving since 2023 by dipping into the county's cash reserves. So these things largely parallel the kinds of things that we're looking at. So we have a plan, and we have a budget. We've gone through it. I think everyone's, and I don't make light of how complicated this budget process is, and as we've gone through our extensive hearings, people have asked good questions, and frankly, it takes a couple of years before you can really fully understand our budget, unless you're like city treasurer and it's part of your, professional work to do this. I was told not to name names all the time, but I was reminded of one community that does their same size as we are in DuPage, and they do their entire budget review in a 4-hour meeting on a Saturday. So I know that our residents can know that our aldermen spend a whole lot more time going through this budget process, because I believe that every hour we've spent here has been matched with maybe 2 outside of the council trying to meet with staff, other aldermen, to figure out what is best for us. So there was somewhat of a consensus, I believe, as we've had small group meetings. We've met with city manager and 2 aldermen at a time to review where we are, and the consensus has been we've got a good budget plan now. Those who want reassurances that we are going where we need to go, Finance Chair, or is it Budget Finance Chair Toludo, talked about doing what she has referred to as a deeper dive, but I'll call a more full analysis to address the concerns as we go into the next 2, 3, 4 years, because as we've spent down, it doesn't mean that our costs haven't gone up, and that we will have to address that going forward. And again, I remind you that our budget is based on what we have asked for, and staff puts it together. So I'm urging the aldermen, and again, I think for those of you who I've worked with over the years, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm trying to tell you only what I think. This is Committee of the Whole, and you will have the opportunity to tell me what you think. But I would recommend that we do that plan, that we adopt the budget as proposed. We could go through line by line and cut 5,000 here or 10,000 there or 25,000 somewhere else, but it's not going to move the needle in our, depending on what number you want, $125, $150 million budget. And then in January, February, we can reorient and see where we need to go if it's any different than where we're going. So we're the board. Our job is to review the budget. For those who have not been in the budget process before, or if you've been involved in other governmental entities, we can't do a budget where everyone fully participates in every single line item. I was thinking about a corporation that I won't name, and I was thinking if someone called up and said, hey, we've got 20 photocopiers in our downtown office, should we maybe only have 12? Should we cut some additional money out? Boards, corporate boards don't do budgeting any differently than we do. We provide the overview. We can't go through and look dollar for dollar. If we're all going to propose cuts, it won't make any sense after a while. It doesn't mean we're not supposed to do our job and review the budget. It just means that we have to know what level we're at, in my opinion. So one thing that has come to the top in terms of consensus is not a cut, but it's the need to restore the senior services that were eliminated from the budget, and I believe that Alderman Brennan, as Chair of Public Affairs and Safety, will be making a motion to restore those cuts, and I think I've talked to virtually everyone about that. Our schedule, if I'm correct, is to pass the budget, talk about it tonight, pass the budget this evening, and have the tax levy and budget ordinances on our December 3rd council meeting. Is that correct? Or am I off by one?
The budget ordinance is on tonight. The levy ordinance would be on December 1st with the public hearing.
Very good. Thank you. So I want to give some special thanks to Chair Toledo. I know it's her committee. She has spent a great deal of time working with staff, with me, doing some superior analysis and helping us get where we are today, wherever we wind up. So let's work together, see where we go. And I want to hear from you, of course. And with that, on with the show. So Chair Toledo, let me start with you.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for the overview and your comments. What I would like to do before we get into the rest of the Committee of the Whole is to just acknowledge that there has been a lot more handouts and numbers and schedules than most of our budget years as we looked at the budget this year. And to that end, I just wanted to help members of the board and the public have a very high-level overview of where we started and where we are as we stand right now related to the budget. And so a small spreadsheet is being handed out, but I'll talk through it for the members of the public that are listening to the recording. So what is being handed out is just a part of the full budget, and it's related to the general fund expenses. So it excludes one-time items. You can find this number tied to a budget page 1-8, I believe, in your budget book. You will see the on 1-8 in the top chart, you will see the 2025 budget number of $77 million for the operating capital transfers and the total net expenditures for 2025. So that number ties to the 2025 number. And just to help simplify what has happened since the beginning of the budget season for 2026, staff started with a budget apples-to-apples comparison of general fund expenses of $80 million, $80.4 million. That is apples-to-apples to the 2025 budget number of $77 million. Staff was proactive and reduced the budget, their original budget, by $3 million in cuts. We have all received an attachment A to the circle back items that itemizes all of that $3 million in cuts that has already been made from the budget. Then, as a council, we all agreed in an additional $615,000 in deferrals on top of the $3 million that was already cut. That brings us down to a $76.8 million general fund expenditure total, with the $3 million in cuts and the additional $615,000 in deferrals. And I think it's important to keep that in mind at a high level before we get into potential line-by-line budget cut discussions, because what is currently proposed is basically a flat budget to the prior year. So I just want that to sink in. $3.6 million has already been cut out of the budget that was originally proposed. And that's what's in front of us tonight. So any additional $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 will be on top of an existing $3.6 million in cuts. So once we orient to that, then I wanted to just take the opportunity to just give my philosophy about any additional cuts on top of the $3.6 million. And my philosophy is essentially that I am against additional budget cuts tonight, as they don't really solve the fundamental problem that the general fund is facing. The fundamental problem that the general fund is facing is that it's imbalanced. We are spending more than the revenues that are being taken in for that budget fund. And so, I liken it to a family budget. If a family's expenses grow over time, they may not be able to afford certain necessary items. So they need to reassess the budget. And some people in the family may say, oh, let's not buy the extra dessert, or let's not go to the movie theater, every month. We're gonna reduce that. We're gonna look at that individual line item. But that doesn't solve the bigger fundamental problem in that family's budget. And so we're in a similar situation right now. We have a fundamental problem in our general fund. We need to take a deep dive and look at that more closely as to why and what can be done to rebalance the general fund. And we have a proposal right now to start doing that starting in January, when we can take a disciplined and measured approach, holistically looking at the general fund of what belongs in there and what trade-offs we're willing to make and what trade-offs we don't believe that the taxpayer is willing to make. And that's a public process that will start in January. And I support that process, the measured, disciplined, holistic approach, versus a line-by-line, removing the dessert or the extra movie from the family budget tonight. I feel it's reactive and not appropriate at this stage. That concludes my thoughts. Thank you.
All right. Alderman Bastido, I guess we'll go with the chairs next.
Oh, thank you. No, I just wanted to ask a question, which may be a staff question, and I think I know the answer, but I think it's good for the public to hear. So you said that the 2025 budget was $77 million, 2026 original version of the budget was $80 million, and you said that was apples to apples, but it looks like it went up $3 million only to be reduced by $3 million. So can you explain why you are calling that a flat budget and why it wasn't really an increase before it was decreased again, and I don't know if that's a staff question or.
Well, I mean, I can, Mayor, may I?
Please.
I mean, the point is that the way that the city of Elmhurst's employees build a budget is from the ground up. So when they put together their budget for what they thought the costs were to deliver the level of service that the city of Elmhurst expects, that number came out to $80.4 million. And when they looked at the amount of revenue that we were taking in for the general fund, they saw that that was imbalanced. There wasn't enough revenue to cover that. So they took the opportunity to look in advance of us, and knowing that the city council and the public would not want that, they took the opportunity to reduce that budget to the extent that they felt that they had the decision-making capability of what was in the details of the budget to do without additional council input. And then council saw the budget, and we made additional input to add, in addition to that, another $600,000, with the caveat that as a council and as a public, we will look at right-sizing and rebalancing the general fund starting in January. Does that help?
Yes. So the answer is that the cost of doing business as usual increased since last year. It's not that they built in extra desserts. To go back to your example.
Thank you. That's a simpler way of saying it.
Okay. I see heads nodding on staff. Okay, thank you.
Did you have additional comment at this time?
No.
All right. Alderman Brennan?
Thank you, Mayor. So when the budget was originally presented to us as a council, honestly, I was against increasing taxes, predominantly because I didn't understand the problem. And I felt that there's a requirement for us to dig deeper and understand and define the problem. I think we've done that. And as a result, I've gone from not knowing what the root problem was to understanding the problem. And I think what's being discussed is very prudent, for us to move this budget forward. I'm in full support of the budget as well as the proposed tax increase. That said, Alderman Toledo has alluded to, we need to sort out, what we do about this in the future. I'm a little uncomfortable, quite honestly, to get back to a flat 20 year-over-year budget. That means we cut pretty deep. I mean, there is inflation out there. So for us to get to a flat budget, we've already cut pretty deep. And so therefore, I think for us to provide the services that our residents expect us to deliver, we do have more work here to do to understand how we restructure the framework to where this is not a recurring problem. So in summary, I support the budget, I support the tax increase, and I appreciate the hard work that everybody's done here. Thank you.
Alderman Jensen?
Echoing similar thoughts, first of all, I support the budget and the process. I think we do need to take a deep dive next year. I support the tax increase. No one prefers to increase taxes, but we're elected to be up here to make tough decisions. Cuts in the budget, increasing taxes. I don't think we're going to make, we're not going to solve the problem here tonight. We have a structural budget deficit ongoing that we need to solve, and we're not going to spend an hour fixing that. We need to spend many hours fixing that, and the time to do that is really next year. So I support the process and the budget, and I appreciate the work that everyone's put into this. Thank you.
Alderman Hill?
Thank you, Mayor. I want to take this opportunity to thank staff for their patience with all my questions and input and calls and whatnot. You can see they've lost their hair, some of them, through all the stress and ongoing difficulties, myself as well. I do support the budget and all the recommendations that have been made up to date, and I'm supportive of the process that we've taken to get here so far. I think it's extraordinary circumstances, and I'm glad we've I think at the mayor's bequest, taken on this additional committee of the whole to have this discussion, because I think extraordinary circumstances engender a little bit more additional discussion. Based on the comments I've heard tonight, where, going through some of these items, and I keep hearing line by line, I have been interested in looking more as an aggregate, what sort of savings there are. You can say that, 5,000 here doesn't address, 10,000 here doesn't address the structural issues. Well, I mean, you can say that about anything. The levy doesn't address the structural issues, right? The 615,000 in deferrals don't address the structural issues. But I did feel it was incumbent to do some of the work and seeing if I could identify, and also in conversations with other aldermen and staff, seeing if we could identify potential additional cuts. And I know one of the documents that was shared had some color coding there, which I thought was just a starting point for discussion. And nothing when I was looking at this, nothing that I hope we discuss really prevents a measured approach next year, a deep dive. None of this means we can't do one, and we can do one and then not the other. I mean, I hope we do a deep dive no matter what, whatever that looks like. But I think cuts are cuts, where you can save money. Ideally, you save money. And whether it's arbitrary or not, if you can find additional cuts, you do. So I'm not sure of the process here, but I would enjoy some discussion on these documents. I think it was the second one in the attached documents to the committee of the whole, with respect to the items that are colored in green. And some of these we talked about elsewhere. One was the sustainability budget, which is $50,000 that perhaps could be deferred since we have a referral about sustainability. I'm not really interested in going in line by line on each one of these items unless somebody else is. What I'm looking at is the aggregate, and I see an aggregate of $164,000 that could be saved there in additional funds. And this is not taking away anything of all the work that's already been done, but I would be remiss if I didn't say we should look at additional cuts and consider them. And as a final point, this is a document that's been shared with us. I did not go cherry picking things that I thought could be removed. I started with the starting point that was presented to us. And I think, some of these probably, if we are interested in it, should be discussed in depth. I know I had some staff input just recently right before the meeting that talked about the potential other options. I know I shared it with some of you, like what if we reduce this, reduce that. But I think as a starting point, and Mayor, forgive me if I get this process wrong, but I guess I would make a motion to reduce a number of items, and do I make that by line or can I refer the document? Or
So which document is the color-coded one?
that would be a proposed additional general fund reductions for review.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I think for the purposes of what you might be moving, I would say that we could look at this document because it has the line on it, the budget line on it, the account. All right.
Oh, so should I read off the line items that I'm proposing specifically, or refer them by color code or by the document in color code?
Well, are they all within the same color?
They are all within the same color.
And what color would that be?
They would be the green color.
Green.
I'd like to make a motion to consider budget reductions in the green color-coded items on the proposed additional general funds for review sheet as stricken from the budget. I think that's the motion. I don't know, but I'm wording it as best I can.
Okay, so let me just catch up here for 1 second. Does everyone have that? All right. So generally, it's, I'll just, so people know what we're talking about, if you don't have it, it's $23,000 eliminating commissioner event, eliminating $20,000 for professional photography, $20,000 for promotional campaigns, $10,000 for social media marketing, deferring the sustainability plan update, $50,000, reducing one additional business event, $5,000, reducing ground maintenance, $10,000, defers fans in the Public Works garage, $16,000, delay carpet replacement in History Museum, $10,000. We have a motion. We have a second, Alderman Virgil. Discussion. Alderman Virgil.
I support also looking at these cuts.
Wait, are you the second?
I'm seconding.
All right, and are you raising your hand now?
Not again, no, not yet, anyway.
Oh, well, whenever, because it's open for discussion.
Well,
Oh, there you are.
then I will go ahead.
Okay, Alderman Virgil.
Thank you. I do support looking at additional cuts. I agree with a lot of what has already been said here in terms of, that we do have a structural budget issue that we need to look at. I support doing the levy increase. I support the 615 of additional cuts that have already been looked at. But one of my concerns is that structural issue with the budget. Based on the 5-year forecast that the finance director has put together, it gets worse over time. So I do support also doing the deep dive in the new year, but I think it's also incumbent on us to look at additional cuts at this point. We're not in a situation, I think, where, it's business as usual. We've got to look at ways to sort of right the ship, and the earlier we can do this, the smaller the adjustments will need to be. And just to maybe clarify for, the public, what we're talking about with the sort of the structural issues. Over the next several years, our revenues and expenditures sort of diverge. The revenues and expenditures both grow, but the expenditures grow more quickly than the revenues do. And this is due to factors which I think we've already discussed a little bit in terms of benefits and things like that. When I think about the sort of the core mission of the city and what is essential to pay for, I think of infrastructure and services like police protection and fire protection. A lot of the other things, while they certainly have value, they're somewhat nice to have. So I think it's worth, a lot of those things are what's on this document that we're talking about. So I think it is worth looking at those. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Virgil. Alderman Jensen.
So looking at this list, almost half of it is just deferring to somewhere down the road where we also have this problem. So not really sure what that solves other than making it look slightly better now, but worse with inflation and whatnot down the road. So not confused as to why we have deferrals on there.
I'm going to make sure everyone gets to speak once, but if you'd like to speak, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, thank you. So I view these as things that, and that was possibly what I had in mind when I looked at this initially, is that these things aren't, for the most part, there are some items here that might have to come back in the future and be done in a subsequent budget year, such as like the fans, but many of these items are simply one-time stricken from the budget and do not have to be, they can be done next year if they're added back, but there's not necessarily, we do these annually, many of these things I would imagine, and they can be added back without, they would have increased costs whether we do them next year or not. So I don't really see a penalty for striking them from the budget this year.
Okay, let me see if anyone else wants to speak before we go to round two. Alderman Toludo?
I just want to clarify, the motion is to consider these in totality, I believe is how the motion stands. So if someone ends up voting on this, they're voting for all or nothing.
The motion.
Otherwise, we're going to have to do it line by line, which Alderman had already said he didn't want to do.
The motion is, I have taken it, is to reduce the budget by all of these, $164,000.
Okay.
All right, Alderman Nudera.
And I guess what I'm hearing from Alderman Hill, that these would be deferrals, not necessarily cuts. Is that correct?
Combination.
This 164 in the green.
Is that what you are saying, Alderman Hill?
Yeah, I think there's a taxonomy question here. So a reduction I see is something, so a cut would be removed from this year and it might be repeated again next year. So you're not deferring it, I guess you would see these as cuts, and maybe deferrals is the wrong word. But in some cases it isn't, depending on the line item.
Let me get my dictionary. Well, certain things could be cut and we're not going to do it anymore. And certain things could be deferred. For instance, in years past, we've deferred planting trees in 2021. And in 2022, we did double the amount to make up for it. So it was a deferral. We didn't say we're cutting out the tree program. So I think yours are probably could be accurately described as deferrals.
So I saw these as one time this budget year, removing it from the budget. Not saying these will be stricken going forward in perpetuity, of course, just a one-time removal from the budget.
All right. Alderman Nudera?
Thank you, Mayor. And I think that's the focal point, is the fact that we're going to look at a deep dive in January of 2026 of all of these things. And I think right now, $164 really doesn't move the needle. And the proposal of the levy and the budget, I think, should stand as is, and without these cuts in the green bars on this form. So I support what we originally had proposed, and I yield back.
All right, I'm going to turn it around because we're on the amendment, so you're speaking against the amendment.
Yes, I am.
All right, thank you. Alderman Bram?
Thank you. So this is unprecedented. Typically, as I spoke at the last committee of the whole meeting, we look at our circle back items. Those are the issues that aldermen have voiced concerns about or needed additional information. And motions at that meeting, that previous meeting, were typically done. Most of the time, those would be cuts, right? That would be aldermen saying that this is not needed. To me, it's irrelevant if it's a one-time cut this year or cutting it out of the budget in the future. I agree with Alderman Hill. My understanding of his motion is look at these items, and we don't absolutely need to do them this year. He has not made mention, at least from what I understand, of saying that, okay, if we don't do them this year, we're going to increase that budget next year to play catch up. That wasn't stated, and that's not my assumption since it wasn't stated. And he can clarify if he wishes, but that's not how I'm taking that motion. So it does impact the bottom line of this year's budget if this would move forward. Line item by line item, we did it every year for my last 22 years here. So I don't know why aldermen are concerned about going line item by line item, other than the fact that the time it would consume tonight, and that the schedule that we would prefer to keep, don't need to keep, but prefer to keep moving forward. So I don't have a problem even if this does not move forward, this set of green items being cut. If I or any other alderman so choose to pick some that they feel that aren't needed out of here, that's also an option. I think this is the way to go about it to be more efficient, to grab a whole bunch of items at once that are considered, at least by Alderman Hill's take, less needed, or maybe the phrase I like to use a little bit too much is nice to have versus need to have. So I'm in full support of this. Yes, everybody on this dais has worked very hard on this budget. I became, a Gold Star Library patron over the past, over this budget cycle by going over the budget every single Monday and Tuesday there. So everybody here deserves kudos. Staff deserves kudos, right? Taking the proactive approach when we saw what our deficit was, revenue to expenses, to do the additional $3 million. And then it was recommended the additional $600,000 in regards to referrals. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't continue to look. I personally take it upon myself that we should continue to look. And I think this is something that we should consider, and I am in full support of this motion.
Alderman Nardini.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So it's our job to be
smart stewards of the taxpayer money. I have no problem going line by line. If we are going line by line on the specific at hand, $164,000, I think the commissioner event is a mistake to eliminate. I think it is very Elmhurst that we have a lot of volunteers who spend a lot of time for little to no recognition, and that one time a year there is an event acknowledging all those volunteer hours. I am absolutely in support of addressing a general fund systemic off balance. But if we are going line by line, I am in opposition to this motion in as much as I think eliminating the commissioner event is losing the forest for the trees. I am against this amendment.
All right. Alderman Veremus.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with Alderman.
Alderman Veremus, will you try to get that
I
mic?
know, I'm
There you
sorry,
go.
I'm short and I
That's
can't
all right.
reach. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. I agree with Alderman Nardini. And I also want to say that, yes, nice to have, but that's what makes Elmhurst special. What we do here, it makes it special. That's why people want to come here. That's why we have commissioners that want to serve. It's certainly a reason I wanted to serve. It's a question either for staff or Chair Toludo. The impact on a $500,000 home, we said, was roughly $56 to $58?
56.
56. So by eliminating $164,000, what does that look like? Is that taking it down $6? We're taking it down $6.
Less.
Not even that much.
Less.
Is that correct?
Good job.
Alderman Bastido.
I will be voting against the motion, just having meetings with staff since the night that we found out that we were facing this problem, right? Like, I know some aldermen would like to raise the levy even more. I won't name their names. Some would like greater cuts, right? Like, there's 14 of us. I don't think this is perfect, but I appreciate the process, and I am committed to the deep dive in January, where some of these items may be cut after we are able to hear from staff what the full repercussions would be of making additional cuts. So it's not that I don't think we should be doing this up here. It's our prerogative as aldermen to do that, but I'm going to be voting against the motion, and
Thank you.
look forward to January. Sorry, I had one more thought.
Alderman Irby.
Thank you, Mayor. I do appreciate all the comments I've heard here tonight greatly. I'm glad that we've taken a dive. We're actually in a deep dive to some level. I don't know if it's deep, but we've definitely put our toes in the shallow end. We haven't done that before of the 2 or 3 prior budget cycles, and I believe we can go back to 2010 when we maybe did go for a full swim in the pool. I like the analogy. If we go for what's on the motion here, I do believe going into the individual items or the groupings will not move the needle, per Alderman Toludo's point. I think the point in addition to that is by going through the individual items, we're not here to move the needle. We're maybe here to provide hot meals for 2,600 senior citizens so that they can have a hot meal tonight and tomorrow. That's part of the 80,000 senior number. So it's more than moving the needle. It's also in addition to that, or not moving the needle, it's in addition to grandma having a hot meal in our family analogy. We could take that further, but that's the senior. So for clarity with staff and the mayor, we did talk about the 3 budget items on the senior totaling up 80,000, and that was going to be remedied with a reduction in our disbursement for insurance that was going to cover that. So I'm not sure how we focus that, because if we go for this amendment as it is in the green section, I lose the sustainability for 1 year, and it gets deferred to next year. I can live with that. I just need to know what I need to live with on that number. Alderman Nardini's point of the $23,000 for the the commission event, I do not want to give that up. But we could maybe cut it in half and have a reduced cost. So I would like to make either support Alderman Hill's motion with the 164, but modify that with 2 line items of cutting the commission event in half, going from 23 to whatever half of 23 is, 11.5, whatever that is, and bring back the 50 for this year for the sustainability. So it's a hybrid maneuver, but I don't know how to do that. So I'll turn the floor back.
Well, if you want to make a motion, I can help you construct it.
Yeah, I would like to, as I said earlier, I would like to make a motion or find the proper channel to do that.
All right, so
Point of order.
Yes.
Wouldn't we have to vote on the motion that stands before we entertain a second?
He's amending the motion.
He would be amending.
I don't even know.
He's amending the motion that's before the committee. So his amendment is to start with Alderman Hill's amendment, but his amendment is proposed is to make the reduction of the commissioner event only $11,500 and to make the and to add back in the sustainability update.
Correct. That would be my motion. Thank you, Mayor.
Not in order. Is it a point of order?
I want to speak to cutting the,
Well, wait. Is there a second?
I didn't hear.
Is there a second? All right, so is there a second? All right. So the amendment dies for a lack of second. So we're back on the proposed amendment, which is the $164,000 question. Alderman Bastido.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to clarify, because I think what you said, Alderman Irby, could confuse people. It made it sound like we were choosing to not give seniors hot meals, but everyone has already agreed that that is going to be restored. There are no cuts to senior services, I believe.
I don't think, Alderman Irby, do you understand there will be a motion at the council meeting to restore the cuts to senior services?
Right. I think I posed that as a first question before I made the motion.
Yeah, so we're...
it has not been responded to yet, but...
I'm responding.
Okay, well...
Because I think it should be really clear that that has already been restored. And
it will be restored.
We're not choosing, it will be restored. The decision has already been made that that will be restored.
Well,
We'll have to vote on it.
Here's a point of order. Let's stay on this topic, which is the $164,000 question, not the senior question, not the proposed amendment that failed. Back to this. Who's next? Alderman Jensen, and then Alderman Brennan.
Just back to deferrals. I don't think that we're saving anything by deferring fans of the public works
Alderman Jensen,
garage.
would you pull your microphone closer to? Thank you.
I'm short too. So I don't think we're saving anything by deferring fans in public works garage. That project needs to happen at some point, and inflation's a thing still, last time I checked. Similarly, what do we lose by delaying the carpet replacement? There's liability from there's a trip and fall. In terms of sustainability plan update, it already says on here that there's a referral out there for a sustainability commission that should be completed before any update takes place. Great. I'm fully supportive of that. But if that referral gets fully acted on in this next budget year and there's a project or there's a decision there to start working on a sustainability plan update, I'm all for that. Like, I'm pro-sustainability, and I don't want to delay that by a year just because. I mean, we have a structural deficit of $5 million or whatever ongoing. Cutting something by $10,000, which is like 27 cents on a $500,000, like, what are we even doing here? Let's do a deep dive next year and do it the right way.
All right, I'm going to ask, because there's a lot of noise and I hear some people straining, put your computer to the side, pull your microphone closer so everyone can hear. I think Alderman Brennan was next.
Alderman Jensen said that very well, is in essence what I was going to say. similar to, I was not in support of a tax increase originally because I don't think we did a deep dive. We've done a deep dive. We've cut our budget back to a flat budget year over year. And I think to just, in the final hour, take another, hatchet at another $164,000, it's not going to move the needle. We're going to look at this in further detail. And I think it's a good discussion tonight. But similarly, because of, I don't know what the cause and effect of not doing these things are. We had hours and hours going through these items through several weeks. I'm not willing to, in the final hour, make a decision at a macro level without that cause and effect and understanding that. So therefore, this motion does not have my support. I do think it's our job to look at the budget at this level, but I'm not in support of this at an aggregate. Thank you.
All right. Alderman Baker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is my first budget season that I've gone through, and it's been an interesting one. To those of you that were around in 2009 and haven't had to do this up until this time, I'm sure that is a somewhat good time to be a part of the budget cycle. And this particular year, as we came in, I expected to go through the budget line item by line item. I have worked with a lot of budgets over my years, and the opportunity has existed in the last 6 to 8 weeks to look at the budget. We have gotten answers back on our circle backs and our questions. Relative to this current motion, I had the opportunity to go through probably 80 different cuts that were proposed to take place. And I went through and I looked and saw whether or not I had enough information to make those decisions, whether or not those decisions could be made on the fly, and which ones I actually feel could be cut. And I have some of that feedback tonight. In this particular forum, at this particular time, I don't think it's the time or the place to go into each line item in that manner. I think we have had that opportunity. When I heard that there was going to be a deep dive in the Finance Committee as of next year, I was allayed that some of the concerns that I had would be addressed through that deep dive. And I would hope that that is a significant dive into rectifying some of the structural problems that there are in the budget going forward. Unfortunately, in hearing the motion tonight, it's an all or nothing motion. And despite my desire on some of these matters to perhaps cut those, I cannot support a motion that 100% wants to eliminate these items for next year. So I won't be voting for the motion. I do appreciate all the work that Finance has done, as well as staff, and the ability to consider the different alternatives that are out there as it relates to this. Thanks.
Let me go to Alderman Hill, then Alderman Irby.
So, thank you, Mayor. Hearing the comments, I can sense the tenor of, what we might have as a result here, but I do want to say that I appreciate the opportunity to raise the process, right? Like, how does this happen? And I know we've had 6 weeks or so to hear the budget, but it's been unclear to me how we go about this. I mean, we've heard it line by line. That seems like an inefficient way to deal with it with 14 people on the dais, but more people on the dais, 14 elected aldermen discussing it, plus the treasurer and the clerk and everybody else who can give opinions, and the mayor, of course. But that being said, it seems like doing it in the aggregate is the most elegant way to handle a clumsy situation. Now, it doesn't sound like it's going to be a workable way, but I appreciate the opportunity for us all to discuss this. I hope that when, if this doesn't pass and we go on to look at this, a lot of these items, of course, won't be in front of Finance. We're going to do a deep dive. It's going to be, I guess, one heck of a deep dive from all the assurances it's been given that we're going to do it. We're going to get hypoxia on this dive. But still, that being said, I hope we look at these items also in our own, committees. I mean, a lot of these things could, I guess, be addressed next year, when we look at these and they come before us. And, perhaps this is a list of the first things that should be discussed when they come before us again in committee. I don't know. But I do know that I'm as uncertain as anybody how to handle this process in a very unique budget year. So I appreciate the comments and reflections from everybody here.
Alderman Irby?
Thank you, Mayor. Back to one of the line items here is a discussion point that might clarify the process a little bit better, in my opinion. We were supposed to meet Friday in Finance, and that got canceled. That was an opportunity to allay some of Alderman Brennan's points of we had plenty of time. And I do not feel we've had plenty of time to dig into a budget cycle where we've declared, raised the flag, saying we need to find some cuts, get things back in balance, and we applied the same timeline to a process that needs more time. And that's where we are tonight. We failed to do the Friday meeting for whatever reason. That's time under the bridge gone. We won't recover it unless you guys come up with a time machine. So here we are tonight, and we only have so much time, and I'm wasting it right now. So in those small group meetings, that was another method we used to get some straw polling, get some collective consensus among the aldermen. And this item of $50,000 for the sustainability plan, which has already been deferred many, many years. This is not the first time it's been deferred. So I get a little aggravated when we push it out another time. Outside of this grouping of green, we have the trolley. Does that mean we're going to give up the trolley? Right now, the trolley, if I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong, prove me wrong, I've got the sign. Is the trolley on or not? So how do you guys respond to that $50,000 for the sustainability plan that we said we had it handled with the insurance money, and now we don't, and I lose it again?
All right, well,
that's a question.
I'll answer your question. And I will also give you my comments, and we'll see if we, and for the people who are in our audience, we are on Committee of the Whole. We're running a little late. We will commence our regular council meeting as soon as we conclude our Committee of the Whole. So we do have time travel because the meeting we didn't have Friday led to having this meeting that you're sitting at right now. There was no planned Committee of the Whole. The idea was to bring it all here so we could all participate. A number of aldermen couldn't make it to the Friday meeting. There was a feeling that it was just going to be a 2-2 tie, and we'd be up here anyway in front of the main meeting. So that's why we're having this meeting. I can't answer your question on sustainability. It's part of the cuts that are proposed, so it's kind of outside the question of why it's there. It is there. For my comments, I'll say this, and I'm going to disagree with everyone a little bit, just to be fair. I don't think we should be looking at the budget at this level of $5,000 or $10,000. I've been on boards, and I've been staff to boards, I should say, and I don't really expect people to look at it at this level. The proposed cuts of $164,000, unless my math is off, is 1/10 of 1% of our total budget. So it doesn't really move the needle at all, in my opinion. We are, as I say, very careful. We look at what we spend. We have a pretty lean operation. As I get to travel to other municipalities and see all the staff they have running around in City Hall, around the city manager, I think, like, we don't have that much. We have not increased our police officers in I don't know how long. We've always been 68. In fact, it used to be 70. Our fire department staffing is flat. The public works increases that we're seeing right now are because we have additional requirements like phosphates, et cetera. The only thing I can see that we've added in recent years is we've added a communications capability that we really needed. So I don't want to go into these kind of cuts. I don't want to go line by line either. I don't get a vote, by the way, in this. If you wanted to cut down to the essentials of just nice to have, I could show you how we could eliminate millions from this budget. Get rid of the trolley, the museum, the two parades, get rid of that's what makes Elmhurst Elmhurst, is the quality of life that we provide. And we're not going to solve this at $5 or $10 or even $164,000. There were at least 3 aldermen that contacted me and said, we really should be doing a $2 million levy, not a $1 million levy. And I'm just trying to get a budget package presented so we can proceed and look at it a little more carefully. So, again, as I said at the top of the program, this is a working document. It passes. It doesn't mean it's spent. So, if there's a feeling that, we should or shouldn't do something, we can adjust the budget going forward. But it's our plan that tells us the kinds of things we're looking at. So, for my piece and no vote, I'm not in favor of this motion. All right. Alderman Brand.
Thank you. It's a tough call in regards to doing something line by line or grouping like we are, because then you have others that are concerned with, items that they are in favor of. Alderman Irby, Alderman Baker are 2 that spoke to it just now. In regards to does it move the needle or not, of course it doesn't. I mean, $164,000 is $164,000 though. I mean, it's something, and it is saying that we are even going to that degree. If we're going to do a tax levy increase, we're even going to cut as far and as deep as we can. I just want to remind everybody, it's the first motion of the evening too. There could be other motions that would cut and or defer additional monies. This is the first motion of the night, and we haven't even gotten past it yet. So there's, the yellow section that's in this spreadsheet if someone wants to look at that, right? And that's $500,000+ of not deferrals, mostly cuts. So I want to pull it back and put it in perspective that no, the dollar amount here is one piece of it, but it's also saying to the public, we're raising your taxes, but here's what we have done initially, here's what staff has done initially, and we're taking it to the goal line and getting in the end zone and doing everything we possibly can to make sure that we cut as much as possible and or defer. The other thing I'll just take a note on is that the deep dive that will be done in 2026, that doesn't change the budget for 2026. Yes, it might change the spending that the budget represents in 2026, but it's not changing what we pass as a budget because that will be done and over with already. So I think the mayor just mentioned it in regards to staffing. I've talked with some aldermen about a hiring freeze. Is that where we should go in regards to this budget? The mayor spoke about the communications department. We don't have a communications manager, I don't believe. We do, yes. Actually, it starts on Wednesday. Oh, well, that kills that thought. So where I was going to go with that was that maybe that's something that we consider not filling, but I guess we just filled it, so that is not even an opportunity. But my point of the matter is, I think it does speak to the residents. I think it is a good motion, and I'm going to continue to support it.
All right, I think we're ready to vote. I think everyone's who wanted to have their say has, and I'll ask Clerk Tamer to call the roll. The motion is to reduce the budget by the green items that I read off, totaling $164,000. Clerk Tamer.
Irby?
No.
Brennan?
No.
Barimas?
No.
Bellinger?
No.
Schenko?
No.
Hill?
Yes.
Graham?
Aye.
Jensen?
No.
Chaluto?
No.
No.
Baker? Udera?
No.
Virgil?
Aye.
Nardini?
No.
Bastido?
No.
3 ayes, 11 nays.
3 ayes, 11 nays. The motion is defeated. Alderman Irby.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to make a motion to make sure that our trees do not get reduced. As I look over your head, it says City of Elmhurst, and there's a tree in there, and we are a tree city. And we have to spend $2 per cap over 4 years.
Point of order.
I see where you're going over. What is your motion?
Motion is to bring back the trees that were eliminated in the original round of the printed budget in forestry. There's 2 line items, 6063 and the general fund 454, if I can talk, 541300 and 531140. Those 2 items will bring us back to our normal trees so that we don't jeopardize our 4 years that we have to meet those budget numbers and the number of trees, or we lose our tree city designation. So that's my motion.
City Manager, can you give me some light on this one?
Yes, Alderman Irby's referring to attachment A, the 3rd page, line items 44 and 45. The first one is what we did in the initial round of cuts, the $3 million, is we reduced the number of trees planted from 600 to 500 for 2026. And so those amounts were 17,500 in account number 531140, and then 27,500 in account number 541300.
So what are the 2 amounts?
17,500 and 27,500.
All right, and the line numbers are they on the attachment?
Yes, it's number 44 and 45 on the 3rd page of attachment A.
All right, we have the motion then to reinstate one line item of 17,500, another 27,500 to increase, to restore the tree expenditure line. Is there a second? All right, the motion dies for lack of second. Other comments, issues?
Viewpoint now.
Let me tell you where I think we're going to go. We're going to do as much as we can in committee of the whole, but if we're not completed by 8, we will pick it up, I think, before the council. That's it. Unless people want to continue going. I was going to say we would address the remaining issues of the council before the council. We would start the council meeting at 8 o'clock. Any motions can be made there, of course. All right. Alderman Bastido?
I was just asking about the senior stuff.
I was going to do that in the regular meeting.
Regular, at the hearing or the meeting that comes after?
The meeting, the motion to restore the senior services will be appropriate at the meeting because it will be actually, any vote we take here is largely advisory.
Right.
We would then follow it up at the meeting.
Is that the meeting later tonight or the meeting?
The meeting right after this one.
Okay, so after the hearing, we can still change the budget or make motions?
Oh, yeah, the senior one is, a motion has to be made at our council meeting and voted on to be part of the ordinance. All right, anyone else? Alderman Virgil.
I'd like to make a motion regarding a few of the yellow items.
Okay.
So this would be for the first one there in terms of eliminate Public Arts Commission contribution. The amount listed is $20,000. I would like to reduce that to 10. The next one regarding the trolley has an amount listed of $115,000. I would like to reduce that by 20. And the last item I would like to take a look at there is last line item in that yellow section for eliminating community grants, except for the parades. With amount of $100,000, I would like to reduce that by half, by $50,000.
Okay, we have a motion to reduce Public Arts Commission contribution by $10,000.
Mayor, if I can interrupt, and I apologize. There was a typo on the yellow sheet. The Public Arts Commission is already reduced to 10,000. Schedule or attachment A has that reduced by 10,000 already, just to be clear to the council, and I apologize for that, that it didn't transpose to the secondary spreadsheet.
So just to clarify, there is a 20,000 there to reduce.
Correct. There's,
All right.
it was 20,000. The staff cuts took it down to 10,000.
Okay, understood.
So is your motion then just in the other two items?
Yes, please.
All right, so the motion then is to reduce the trolley by 20,000 and community grants by 50,000. Is there a second?
Well, I just need a point of clarification. When that motion for trolley, for example, it says here 115,000 of the line item. Are you saying cross that off and say 20,000, or are you saying minus 20 off of the 115?
These are reductions by 20.
Okay.
Correct.
Second.
Well, who would like to second? Alderman Irby. All right. Discussion. I'm going to let the movant go first.
Sure. So just rationale on these regarding the trolley. I mean, I like the trolley. I've ridden the trolley many times. You know, in the case where we are kind of with the budget, though, I would like to take a look at where we can be, you know, keep as much of the benefits of the trolley, but, you know, reduce where it's possible. And I think, you know, in some of the information from staff, if we eliminate the Holly trolley, which has lower ridership than other times a year, that would save us about 10K by reducing the hours in the summer, instead of ending at midnight, end at I believe like 10. That would cut then also another $10,000. That's where I'm thinking of the $20,000 for those. And then the other one on the community grants. You know, these are all the sort of the things that it goes to support are great things. But, you know, in kind of in the situation we are, again, I think these are nice to haves. I don't believe for any of these things, you know, their sole funding source is the city. They're getting money from other places as well. So I hope they continue. But, you know, for the purpose of what we're doing here, I would like to see a reduction.
Additional discussion. All right, call the roll.
Alderman Nardini.
Nardini.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In my time on Public Affairs and Safety, I saw a lot of these grants come through, and I am fine with a line-by-line item. I am okay with us actually getting into the weeds the way that we are right now. I won't support any cuts to the Elmhurst Symphony. They are nice to haves, but they are as Elmhurst gets. And for the amount of money that we're talking, I think we're cutting out a good chunk of the core of our town. I am against, if we're going for specifically that, in that they are bundled together, I'm against this motion in its entirety.
Right. Again, you know, I don't know, for my comment, I don't know exactly what we're cutting. I don't know if we can cut that from the trolley. I think we're saying the Holly trolley should go or it shouldn't is something that Public Affairs and Safety should look at. The budget, as I say, can be adjusted. We're now talking about something that's not even 0.1%. When we cut the grants, I don't know what we're cutting. Are we eliminating the symphony? Are we eliminating the contribution to, I mean, there's a number of things we support. I just, you know, again, I'm sorry to say I don't think this is how we do budgeting. We've never done it this way before, and I think we're at a level of detail that is not called for. Alderman Hill.
To your point, Mayor, I think what we're seeing is a consequence of getting this budget deficit information so late. Like, I think who knows what the decision would have been on the trolley had we had the shortfall known well in advance. We probably would have done our own due diligence ahead of time and maybe made the appropriate reductions and made cuts here and trims here in every committee. So I think, again, it's the outcome of a unique situation where we're getting all this information so late in the game. I remember We talked about North York median lighting just recently, and we passed it here, and it was $215,000 on a referral that I was one of the original signers in that referral before it was discussed in committee. Knowing that amount, I wouldn't have supported it with the shortfall in mind. So I think it's an artifact of the position we find ourselves in, doing this so late in the game, knowing the shortfall so late in the game, feeling like I'm not had a good level of information until this point. So I don't think it's optimal either, but I understand the rationale for going for these. I prefer to do it in the aggregate. I understand going through these line by line, so I think there's a purpose to it. And although I wish we could have discussion in more detail, I'm supportive.
All right, I think we're going to call the vote on this unless someone feels an urge. We'll. Yes, Alderman Brand.
I just want to clarify, in regards to Alderman Hill's example, that's a totally different funding source that wouldn't impact our discussion here tonight at all. So in regards to the lighting, that is a TIF funding source and not the general fund. But good example, and I understand where he's coming from. It has been a difficult process this year in regards to the budget, and I'm ready to vote as well.
All right, Clerk Tamer, call the roll, please. Okay, so to clarify, the amendment would be to decrease what the current level of the trolley from 115 by reducing another 20 and reducing the community grants by 50,000.
Irby?
Yes.
Brennan?
No.
Remus?
No.
Bellinger?
No.
Shanko?
No.
Hill?
Aye.
Graham?
Aye.
Jensen?
No.
Toludo?
Nay.
Baker?
No.
Nudera?
No.
Virgil?
Aye.
Nardini?
No.
Bastido?
No.
4 ayes, 10 nays.
4 ayes, 10 nays, the motion fails. Anything else? Alderman Irby.
Thank you, Mayor. Since we're not getting anywhere with the line items, I'm going to make a motion, or you can do it. My motion is to proceed to approve the budget as printed, minus the adjustments that we've talked about with respect to, minus or plus with respect to the senior citizens. Are there any other items that we need to adjust before we go to a vote?
Well, I'm not sure that we really need to vote.
No? No vote needed?
Well, we're going to vote in the council meeting, unless, if Alderman, again, I was talking to city attorney about this, the committee of the whole is largely, it's an advisory vote. So if I felt it was going to be close, but I think if we're going through the items and the intent is to proceed with the budget as presented unless something is adjusted. So the budget package we will present includes the $3.6 million in cuts. The tax levy is not tonight. And then we're anticipating that Alderman Brennan will be making a motion that all aldermen seem to be on board on to restore cuts to certain 3 lines of senior services.
Okay, I will pull that motion back off and turn it back over to you.
All right.
For that final wrap up.
All right, I'm ready to wrap it up then. All right, we have a motion to adjourn then. Alderman Nardini with the motion, Alderman Remus with the second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. We are adjourned.